Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. In this particular episode, I'd like to talk about the visa bulletin and some changes that have been made to it. And also there was a very recent, as in this month, you can call it fiasco, that has disappointed a great number of people, but at any rate, and even there was a lawsuit that was filed against Department of State. But at any event, let me tell you a little bit about the changes in the visa priority chart so that you understand what the different charts are now and what's happening. So first, let me start with a family-based petition that essentially has a person outside the United States that wants to come into the United States, and they've gone through consulate processing. And the way that it works is that they go through all the various paperwork, and eventually you or your attorney files the necessary paperwork at the National Visa Center, and then it goes on from there. So, I've done other videos on, what is the preferences and the priority dates and all of that. But for purposes of this particular video dealing with the priority charts, let's look at one question. And the one question is from the National Visa Center: when do they send you the information so you can fill it out and go forward? Well, they basically calculate essentially when the visa number is going to become current, and then to allow for processing time and filling out and submission and transferring and all that, they actually send you the request at an earlier date than when it's actually current. So let's say, just for argument's sake, it becomes current on May of 2016. You might get the paperwork to fill out on November of 2015, okay, give or take. And what that means is that they are taking into account all of this processing time. So by the time you're sitting at the U.S. consulate across from the officer wanting to get your visa, the visa number should be current, and you should be able to go forward. Because obviously if the visa number is not current, then it doesn't make any difference. If you're sitting across the table from the officer, it won't go forward. So in this particular case, there was a distinction or a difference between if you wanted to adjust status in the U.S. versus consulate processing outside the U.S. If you wanted to adjust in the U.S., and this course assumes you can, you could not do it unless the visa number was actually current. You could not file the adjustment until the day it was current. If you filed an adjustment application one day before it became current, even though it was current, 11 months before your, interview date, it would have been denied because it wasn't current at the time you filed it. So what has happened, and the whole reason I'm doing this video on the visa chart, is they've now broken down the chart of availability of priority dates into two major areas. One is what is actually current, and now because USCIS has gone in consultation with Department of State and looked at when it may become current, there's another chart that essentially says when you can file your adjustment application. That's really what it comes down to. All this explanation to get to that point that you can actually now file your adjustment application even though it's not current at the present time. As long as the date on the visa chart, the one that deals with when you are able to file, gives the date, then the moment that date comes around, you can file even though the visa number's not current. Okay, and that is a very nice development in that, I mean, yes, most people without doubt would rather adjust status if they can than consulate process, but then again, they're wasting 6 months, a year, whatever time before because they couldn't do it until it was current. Well, now you can look at the chart, you can see when it is that they are supposed to go forward and then get it filed. So, look at the visa charts, understand now that there's 2 of them for employment-based, 2 of them for family-based, and each one now has the actual priority dates, and then it has the time upon which an adjustment application can be filed. So that's how that works. And just a couple words on the fiasco, if you want to call it, that just happened. They issued with this new procedure the October dates upon which essentially the adjustment people can file, and so everybody looked at it and they were all happy and said, oh, we can file now. And then within about a week they revised that particular, or it was a week or 2 weeks, they revised that particular dates in that chart and set everything back essentially by 2 years. So for those people who thought that they could do it right away, they unfortunately cannot. They do have to wait until that date becomes current, and then we'll go from there. So given that, these are good developments more or less. If you like the video, click like, subscribe, and also you can send me an email. The initial consultation's free, and we'll go from there. More in the coming videos.